This week, the local chapter of the ACLU held its annual meeting focusing on the theme, Policing Paradise. The panel gathered by the ACLU included, among others, Key West Chief of Police Donnie Lee, Trish Gibson of the Public Defender's Office, and City Commissioner Clayton Lopez. It had been a particularly damaging year for the Key West Police Department. The Blue Paper had uncovered a series of cases involving questionable police use of force, where the victims shared a disturbing tendency to disappear. First, there was the near-miss cremation before autopsy of Charles Eimers, a 61-year-old tourist who died in police custody. Then came the tragic case of Matthew Murphy. He had been left in a vegetative state in a Miami hospital after being tased by KWPD on Duval Street. His case, however, had never been investigated. He was reported at large and wanted by the police. There were also the issues of unlawful public strip searches of black men in Bahama Village.
Ooh, look. I didn't know that the police could go in the middle of the street and go in your pants and check in your cavity in public.
And the questioning at gunpoint
like, stop pointing
of an 11-year-old
stop pointing that gun to my face. Ladies save the gun to my face. So if I were like move, my dogs would bark, anything, I would have been dead.
At this week's ACLU meeting, J.D. Adler, reporter for the Blue Paper, questioned the chief about the department's lack of transparency.
Interview yourself and other members of the department in order to get both sides of the story on stories we're working on, but we've always been told that you yourself and other members of the department were unavailable. And I was just curious, since you have your responsibilities, we have our responsibilities. Our end is to try and speak for the public and hold public officials accountable on behalf of the public and set forth the state's job. So I was wondering what kind of a message internally and externally you thought that sent as far as accountability goes when we can't get interviews with members of the department.
I'm not sure I understand your question. I'm not sure that I'm not sure that your newspaper is really interested in, I think you just have one agenda. So we engage with the media all the time, every day.
May I speak, please? I've had my hand up a few times, but now I'm upset. My name's MJ Taylor, and it scares me. It scares me to say how scared I am. It scares me to say my name, because I don't think you're accountable, Chief Lee. And I think you're a very nice person, and I think most of the police officers I know in this city are really wonderful people, and for the most part, the job done is wonderful. But what happened to Charles Eimers on Thanksgiving Day, and the fact that there was no accountability, and the fact that you don't take the Blue Paper seriously, because I take it seriously, I am scared now. I'm fortunate, I'm a white woman of privilege. I was never scared of the police before, even when I smoked pot. Now I'm scared in my own small town where I chose to live instead of Miami.
I would be curious to hear your perspective.
Okay, as far as the chief, no, I'm not talking to him. Chief, why aren't you talking to him? I got to tell you, here's the thing, is that I cannot direct the chief.
Discrimination against the homeless, the mentally ill, and black persons took center stage in the debate.
Open container. I mean, that's probably one of my pet peeves for arresting homeless people for open container. I mean, let's all think about people on Duval Street with their open containers, and we're not arresting them. It is.
We invite them.
Selective drug enforcement was also
there are drug stings, so to speak, where confidential informants are used, and they are told on almost every occasion, go down to Bahama Village and see if you can buy crack. I have not had a case where they're told, go down on Duval Street and see if you can buy, powder. So I do believe that there is a selective enforcement on where we're getting our arrests for drug cases. I have probably a good 20 drug cases right now, and not one of them is Caucasian, every single one of them is black.
Clayton, let me ask you this. In your community, where you live, do you feel that, is it your impression that that your citizens, your neighbors feel that the police is an occupying force, an unfriendly force? I mean, I've heard, I've read, I've been told that many African American parents fear for their children's lives when they walk on the street, not necessarily by criminals, but what's going to happen if they meet an unfriendly police officer?
True statement.
When we look at the suicide rates in Monroe County compared to other counties approximately the same size, in the year 2013, Monroe County had the highest suicide rate of all the counties, with 32 suicides in 1 year. Why am I mentioning this? I'm mentioning this because I think Monroe County has a high rate of people with mental illness. And I think when we are dealing with people with mental illness, I think there needs to be better training and a better understanding of how to deal with these people on the street.
At a previous ACLU meeting, public defenders had stated that certain officers were well known for their habit of lying on the stand. Judges, public defenders, prosecutors, they said, know exactly who those officers are. We asked whether or not that information was passed along to the chief of police.
I do believe that the common knowledge of who at least does not have the respect in the criminal justice system from the judges, from the prosecutors, and from the public defenders is out there. I think the Key West Police is very aware of who the judges don't respect, who the public defenders believe are the bad apples, quote unquote.
There are bad officers, just like there are bad players in any profession. We need to weed them out. We need to hold ourselves accountable and do whatever it takes, whether it's training, whether it's disciplining police officers, or whether it's arresting them. We need to hold ourselves accountable, whether it's training, discipline, or even arrest, to send a message internally and externally to the community that we are accountable for every action and decision that we make. And we need to do a better job of combating our biases. We all have biases, whether admitted or subconsciously. We as a department need to do a better job of checking those biases, of training officers before those biases create a negative situation.
Despite the chief's encouraging words, to date, he has done little to respond to claims that officers often cover up instances of use of excessive force.
Total fiction, under oath, right?
Objection.
I did not see it happen.
Every depot is like this, sir. Do you have an understanding why, with the training these officers have had, that they would fabricate every material aspect on unreasonable use of force under oath?
Objection form.
I don't.
But that's your job to make sure they didn't do that, right?
Form.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
No one wants to provide information that's not correct.
Well, you don't. You're an honorable man, but you're in charge of them, right?
Yes.
And when they misrepresent it under oath, they do a disservice to you and to this city, don't they?
Form.
If they do that intentionally, yes.
Well, when you're under oath, you gotta be careful, right?
Yes, when you're under oath, absolutely. Yes.
And I just read to you a bunch of things that you saw clearly were false, right?
Objection form.
Including
Based on what I-
Mr. Eimers, who never had his face in the sand,
Objection form.
before they were caught by this videotape, right?
This is Officer Nicholas Calvo testifying under oath in the Eimers case less than 2 weeks before an unexpected bystander video surfaced. The video, showing Eimers' bloodied face caked with sand, supported the claim that Eimers had been smothered on the beach.
I was on the sand.
Did you see any sand on his face?
No.
Ever?
No.
Did you ever see his face?
Yes.
Did you see any sand in his eyes?
No.
Nose?
No.
Mouth?
No.
Any blood?
No. Not that I recall.
None of the officers have been investigated for perjury.
As well, I could discipline a police officer, but at the end, if they contest that discipline, it goes to an arbitration, to an arbitrator. Well, then the arbitrator gets to decide, it has the final say in what the discipline is going to be. And to me, arbitration is like a business for them. You know, they don't want to side too much with the administration, or they don't want to side too much with the union, because then they're not going to get picked. So I'm not a big fan of arbitration, because I could terminate someone and it goes to arbitration, and the arbitrator gets the case, and before you know it, the person's back. You know, so I don't have the final say in the discipline if it's grieved, and most of the discipline gets grieved. You know, so it's difficult, but we just have to do it when the police. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. When police officers do something wrong, they got to be held accountable.
We leave you in the company of local performer Nina Newton singing "I Can't Breathe."
I'm sorry. That's all right. Waiting in the clouds for my life to begin. My heart and my fear for my voice or my scream. I can't breathe. Waiting in cities where sit lost and sad. The remains of your age and the ghost of your fear. The echoes of the screams. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. My life in the lights that shine in his eyes. Sweet taste of a kiss, my exile when you sleep. I can't breathe. Broken fathers who never return. Shame for the race, the color of their skin. Color of the skin. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. But from a fire burning in the streets, I hear now clamors for justice. From a fire, hope for justice and love. Oh, love. For the homeless man they killed with their guns. For the lies that were weaving, the hate in their eyes. I can't breathe. For the secrets they whisper in the darkest corners. For the old tricks they play, the betrayals they plot. The soldiers in the street. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Whispers in the wind, footsteps in the snow. I can hear the voices of songs for justice. Can't breathe. Millions of us, blacks, whites together. Forget colors, color of your skin, color of the skin. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. But from a fire burning in the streets, I hear now clamors for justice. From a fire, hope for justice and love. Oh, love. Waiting in the clouds for my life to begin. For my heart and my fear, for my voice, for my scream. I can't breathe. But from a fire burning in the streets, I hear now clamors for justice. From a fire, hope for justice and love. But from a fire burning in the streets, I hear now clamors for justice. From a fire, hope for justice and love. Oh, love.